Did it lose the signal again?
No, it just shows as a J.
Can you tilt the camera down?
Sure.
Okay. That's cool.
There you go. How's that?
Yeah.
See everybody now, okay?
Black and white, but it's okay.
Get a mask.
There's one here too if you want these, I don't know. There's a box in front of me.
Okay.
All right.
We didn't know why.
Jay, do you mind putting on a mask, please?
How can you tell he's not wearing one?
I just assume. But I read on the internet you can actually get COVID from Zoom. It's true, right?
It's on the
Right on
internet.
the
It's true.
I got the booster.
All right, we will call to order the November 10th, 2021 meeting of the Poolsville Planning Commission. On the agenda this evening, we have citizens' comments, announcements, approval of minutes of the October 13th meeting, two pieces of new business, the Hart's request for an extension, and the Poolsville seniors' input on the comprehensive master plan. And under old business, we have Wallace Montgomery back this evening to discuss the master plan as well. Any citizens' comments on agenda items other than what we have? All right. Any announcements from Tony or Martin?
The only thing I have to talk about is I don't know if you all had a chance to watch the Monday commissioner meeting, which, you know, required watching better than anything on Netflix. We talked about the water report. Kathy Mim gave her water report. And in a nutshell, she said that we should be good to go to have 6,500 residents. But then when asked a little bit about, like, you know, what about droughts and stuff like that, she was a little more, like, non-committal. So I'm going to bring this up. Tony and I have talked about it. I'm going to bring it up at a commissioner meeting, not the one Monday, but 2 weeks from Monday, the first December meeting, to talk about, like, how we can drill down on this more, and, like, you know, this is a very important issue for our town. Whether or not we need to get a second opinion, or, like, whether we can get Kathy to be a little more, like, give us a little more, you know, specifics about this, because, you know, saying like 6,500, well, you know, is probably okay. It's like not for me, like I'm not comfortable with that. So anyway, that's where, if anybody wants a copy of that report, I can send it to you. She presented the whole thing in the meeting. You can obviously go back and watch that on YouTube. It is interesting, and you know, she does a great job. But it's sort of like we're good with 6,500, which is what we, you know, which is a good thing, right? Except there is seemed like there's some caveats. So we're going to try to figure out a little bit more about that, I think.
I just attempted to send it to all of you. It's a 92-page report, so I don't know if it went through, but I just tried.
Is it hosted on the website anywhere?
I got it.
It's on the agenda for Monday nights, last Monday's meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay, so the four of you got it. Martin already has it.
Yep.
Okay.
Martin, what's our latest population from the 2020 census?
I think it's like 5,800, something like that. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think somewhere in the recap of the report that I read was 700 more.
Yeah. And some of the other, you know, John can speak to this, and I think John has spoken to this, but you know, the other side of the component is, like, you know, we talked a lot about the town's drinking water and, you know, where we're at with that, but then we also learned that there's a big problem. We already knew this to a large extent with the sewage situation. Like, you know, like that's where a lot of our water is going, is when we have water main breaks. Like our high usage months should be like July and August, you would think. But if I remember correctly, like, it's like, January and February because we're having these breaks.
The I issue, right?
I issue, exactly, so.
That adds to the INI.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, so just as a point of where we're at, we have, the town has taken some of the American Rescue Funds and put it towards, the INI issue. And we actually have 4 contracts that are being they're out to bid at the present time. And then we have an additional 2. We wanted to see where we land with those 4 first. And then we have 2 additional contracts to set out for bid, once we know the numbers that we're dealing with. The other thing is we talked about a little bit is there's a second tranche of money coming in, and putting that towards, we have a section of water main that continuously has its problems along Wooten Avenue, basically the Wesman subdivision and part of the townhouses. And those lines, we keep on, it seems to break a lot in the same places. We kind of know why it does it. So that would probably take some of the second tranche of funds coming in. And in that American Rescue Funds, you're limited in what you can do with it. Water and sewer is one of the components that you can use the money for. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Pending any further announcements, we'll move to the minutes from the October 13th meeting. Anybody had a chance to read the minutes? Anybody have any comments, edits, suggestions?
No.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for October 2021 Planning Commission meeting?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Actually, Martin, you can't vote. Sorry, you weren't here.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Just 3 of us.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yep, I just thought about that just as it happened. Moving on to new business, which is, this is kind of odd, this is new business, but Mr. Hartz, welcome. We're going to move the Hartz request for an extension. Before he comes up, has anybody read the issues that Mr. Hartz is dealing with?
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody feel like they want to hear more information about this?
No, I don't think I need any more information.
Okay, so,
I'm not familiar at all with this project. The only information I have is what was given to us, and that's all drainage issues. So I actually don't know anything beyond the schematics that we were provided.
yeah, so, and we're not here, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but all we're here to discuss for Mr. Hartz today, whether he would be, we would consider him worthy of an extension because of the issues he's been facing with over the last 18 months.
Right, my understanding is that I don't necessarily need prior knowledge of the workings of it. I just need to know what the issues are now, because those have already been decided in the past. Am I wrong?
No, that's the only issue is whether we give him an extension or not.
Okay.
And I want to make sure, Jay, that we are within our rights to do this. If we decide to give him,
Yeah, this is, you're in your rights and ability to do it, but he is going through the process for all the reviews, and it's an outside agency that hasn't given the review or the approval, so.
Right.
He's moved everything he can, and he needs an extension, or else he starts over, and he would start over and be back where he is right now, so it's, you see the self-defeating prophecy that.
right. Seemed pretty straightforward to me too. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Okay.
We need a motion?
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion that we grant extension for the Hart's request.
Seconded.
Jay, is there a standard extension or just granted for the original amount of time or what?
1 year.
1 year?
1.5 years is how long a preliminary plan can stay
Okay.
in function. Yeah.
Should be reworded.
Do I need to amend
No,
my
I don't
motion?
think so because it's the standard thing, right? We grant
Sta-
extension. Yeah.
it goes a year and a half.
Okay. Just want to make sure before we voted, we got that. All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Nobody opposed. Mr. Hartz?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Uh-oh.
We're not going to give you more than 18 months.
First of all, I want to thank you for that, and I can maybe, Ms. Huber, I can maybe give a very, very brief explanation. I've got 18 and a half acres just out of town, and we're breaking it up into 8 2-acre lots, all of them consistent with the zoning. Everything we are doing, everything follows the subdivision regs and the plans. We've not asked for any changes whatsoever in any aspect. We're abiding by all of the requirements of the county, state highway. I've been dealing with state highway for a highway access permit, over 2 cubic feet per second that we're trying to resolve out of a drainage basin of 365 cubic feet per second. That's been going on for over 4 years. And for the last couple of years, it was almost impossible to get a meeting. This morning, we had an hour meeting with State Highway Administration regarding the access permit that we need. And I believe we've crossed the bridge, not the one here on 107, but we've crossed the communication bridge, and we will come forward with the approval from the state here, I expect very, very soon. Since the last conditional approval was presented to us on this small development that Janet and I are doing, we didn't have the Department of Permitting Services for Stormwater Management of the county. That's should have been in your package, or that was all provided. That's now done. So the 4 bullets that came with the conditional approval, right now we need to do the public improvements agreement, which we need to negotiate with the town to finalize to have a final preliminary plan. I believe the allocation now is available based on the properties that had advanced to the point where ours is at. So the only outstanding item that I believe other 2 items would be the PIA, and then to get you the documentation from the state. Once we respond to the last item that we're dealing with in a response, and then they said that over the phone today, they said that should take care of it. So we hope to be back and wrap this up within a year and a half, to tell you the truth. And that's just a small portion of we started this literally over 4.5 years ago. Thank you for the time, and thank you for the consideration here this evening. And if there's any questions, as you see driving by, because every now and then we have surveyors or whatever out there, drive in, ask me, call me on the phone. Everything's been transparent. We've not tried to ask for any privilege whatsoever, because I was involved in writing the subdivision regs. That just didn't seem right, that I come in and challenge what we were part of doing 20-some years ago. So,
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, good to see you.
Yep.
Actually, my biggest concern was that the date on the letter was incorrect from 2019.
On the letter was incorrect?
I noticed that, but I
Did
figured-
you?
I
It
did.
really bothers me.
Yeah, I did notice that, but I thought, well.
On the letter that I
conditional
signed?
approval,
Yes.
I wasn't going to question it.
The date on the letter is December 9th,
Every time I come to sign-
2019, and it references a meeting on December 11th, 2019.
That's not possible.
That is not possible. That is incorrect.
We're very forward thinking here.
Very good, good catch. Thank you.
See ya.
I'm seriously going to bring you up every time I have to sign something from now on. Okay, sorry, I need to pull my agenda back up. That's it of so one more new business, which is the Poolsville seniors' input on the master plan.
See if we can get this thing to work again.
On standby, you have to redo the input.
I know.
If you could, before you get started, just state your name and address
Yeah,
into the
sure.
mic. Yep.
I'm Bill McDonald, and I live at 17205 Lightfoot Lane here in Poolsville.
Welcome, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you.
Is that a pickleball accident?
Pickleball didn't help this. Okay, there we go. We got something coming up anyway.
All right.
All right. And I apologize for it being in black and white. This computer's old, but it's not that old.
Looks like it's high school black and gold, actually.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think
Appropriate colors.
it'll warm up and get brighter in a second,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Planning Commission for listening to us this evening. We have some of our board members here with us as well. We wanted to do a couple of things. First of all, thank the Planning Commission for the current vision that has been in the town, put together for the town for the last 20 years, which have resulted in a lot of things that benefit seniors, such as the types of sidewalks that have been put in, the crossings, and most of all, we thank the commissioners for pickleball, for the pickleball courts that we got a couple of years ago. We're all looking forward to that. I'll give you a little information on who Poolsville seniors are. When I say Poolsville seniors, you might think I'm talking about the entire senior population of Poolsville, and we see ourselves as representing that. But as far as Poolsville seniors, we are an organization that's been around for a while. There was a concern about needing to provide programs as far back as the early 90s. And so some programs that had come forward. Poolsville Seniors itself has evolved beginning around 2014, 2015. We now have a group that originally was called Poolsville Senior Center. Did I get that right?
No.
Do it again.
Poolsville Area Senior Commission.
That's it.
That's when we were under the town of the auspices of the town of Poolsville.
Right.
Prior to 2016.
And so, but it's grown since then significantly. And I have Maria behind me. You want to come up and
Yeah, you're welcome to come up.
and walk through this a little bit just to give a quick background?
Can you tell?
Yeah, with the background. I can,
The background of this whole
Yeah.
thing?
And if you
Yeah,
could,
well,
just
not-
also
Yeah,
state your
have
name
a
and
seat.
address.
I can
and
have
give
a
you your
seat.
name.
Yep.
Are we on? Yeah, we're on.
What do I do? Turn this on?
Yeah,
It's on. Nope.
Oh, it's on.
I turned it on.
And you are.
Hi, Maria Brianzone, 19328 Cecil Manor Drive, Poolsville.
Thank you.
So the program incorporated in 2016 and changed our name to Poolsville Seniors in 2019. What year did we
No,
change?
when we became Poolsville Area Senior Center, when we
Right.
incorporated as a 501c3.
You can tell I'm new to the board.
Yeah. So I've been around since the beginning, like that 2012 that they're talking about, the Jewish Retreat Center. Yeah, I was part of that. Rabbi David Schneier, anybody know him? From Amkalel, right? He walked into the hardware store, John's hardware store. This is legend, what has it? That he walks in, talks about, how there isn't any place for seniors to gather, walks out, and it's the formation of a senior center. And it first met at the Amkalel.
All right.
And it was called a gathering place. Anybody remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, 2012.
What's happened, though, is that the organization has grown, and we now provide a lot of different programs for seniors here in Poolsville. You might imagine, as you can imagine, a lot of them were in person until the COVID pandemic hit. And then we were able to move to use technology and go to virtual programming. And we actually have grown our audience during that period of time. It was more convenient, I think, for a lot of people to get on that. We're looking forward to continue to expand our program over the next 10 years, and that's one of the reasons that we're here, because we want to look at what's going to happen with the new town master plan that comes up. Give you a sense of our mission. Our goal is to keep seniors socially, mentally, and physically young. We provide programs that are open to everyone. We charge no membership fees. We are completely donation-based. And we meet the local need. There are no other senior centers within 15 miles and no public transportation to get anyone to those centers. So the senior services that are offered here are only offered through Poolsville Seniors. Our method is to have activities that keep our seniors socially young, intellectually young, and physically young. As we mentioned, pre-COVID, our programming was entirely in person. Now we're offering through Zoom. Last year we had a holiday sing-along. We had a St. Patrick's Day party that was monstrously successful. We had a bartender who showed everybody how to make drinks at home while they were at
Yeah.
home
Oh,
making
it's
the
all
drinks,
Zoom.
but he could
Yeah.
show you how to make the drinks.
That's the best.
Lots of music. A concert by Hal and his pals.
Yeah.
And several other, we have other things. We normally have quarterly socials that we get everybody together in, and this was sort of a substitute for that.
Just as a little anecdote, Hal and his pals, I don't know who knows about him, they have ties to Hootie and the Blowfish. Another
Really?
band, yeah, local ties.
So
Cool.
they provided entertainment through this time, right now virtually, but eventually if we get back together post-pandemic, they may come out and help us again. We've used our Zoom licenses to provide trivia night where people get online and play trivia. We have a book club, and we have Thursday night lecture series, and I don't know if you've seen these, but they're advertised in the Monocle every week, and they're certainly on our website. But our Thursday night lectures have been local celebrities, local authors. We've had historians, scientific demonstrations and discussions, and especially about historic properties, including our local African-American communities here. Whole history on those.
Let me just say, Kenny Scholes, Historic Ag Reserve Properties, he was our very first guest. And it took off like wildfire, so we were like, let's keep this going, see where it goes.
Yeah, we see him every week.
He's
every
a great
month.
speaker and a great
He
guy.
is,
Yeah.
he is. Great motivator, too. Yeah.
And then physically young, of course, there's always pickleball. And Poolsville Seniors is
Always.
one of the reasons that pickleball got started here in Poolsville. We have offered, in fact, we have one coming up next week, a week from tomorrow. Or a week from today, we're gonna have another socially distanced narrated hikes. We call them pop-up walks because we have to watch the weather. We have to know what the weather's going to be. We can't announce these until like a week in advance, so we know that we're gonna have a good time out there on the field. Those are run by John Waltz, who is a local historian around the canal. So he's taken us down and shown us all kinds of things. There are Civil War forts down there that I never knew existed. Quarries. This was a huge area for quarrying at the time. And on top of that, then we have our fitness instructors who continue to do Tai Chi, chair yoga, Zumba yoga, and the Breathe Mind Body program. So that gives you a sense of who we are. This gives you a sense of the constituent base. Sorry about the cutting off of the margins. I'm not sure if I can move that or not, but this is recent data from to show you how large the reach is that Poolsville has. Poolsville Seniors has. Our email list subscribers now are up to that level. We have, you can see our Facebook outreach is over 10,000 connections, and our Facebook likes are there. And we have been able to expand actually instead of just stay stagnant during the pandemic. So as a result, we've looked out to find out if we're talking about the master plan for the future, for what's going to happen over the next 10 years, what we wanted to do was simply bring you some information, some ideas that I know you're still in the process of putting together how the master plan is going to be done. We would like to offer our services to be able to help with that in guidance at any point in time when you want to take a look at that. Our senior population is, if you go with our numbers of 50 and older, that's 20% of the population here. So we represent a significant number of people here in Poolsville. Let me take you through these one at a time. This is an old chestnut, and it's not anything anybody doesn't know. But this came back on a survey last year that we did in advance of the election, so that the candidates would be able to see this information. You know the drill. We have limited transportation to remote stores. The closest is in Darnestown or Germantown or Frederick. And I'm one of the drivers for WUMCO, and we constantly are asked, "Oh, can we just stop by and get groceries? Because it's the only time I can get groceries is when I go on my doctor trips." So that just adds to the need that's there. There is a need here for senior housing. One of the things that Randy Davis told me was that people that live in Poolsville want to stay in Poolsville. we love this place, and for all the good reasons. Most seniors that will want to downsize when they no longer have family living with them. And we're finding, Randy actually said one time that the reason that we didn't increase the school population is because some of the old folks wouldn't move out of Poolsville.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean,
So but it's
fine.
difficult to find housing here that meets the needs of seniors, that has a smaller space, is on a single level, is handicap accessible, and close to services. So it's something we just want to throw out there and say, as we think about where we want Poolsville to go over the next 10 years, that's one of the things to consider. Need for medical services, and this isn't news to anybody here. Right now, we have only one physician's office. We have 1.5 full-time physicians here in Poolsville as a general practice. That office is at capacity. They cannot take on any more clients. They also are not able to take Medicaid. So seniors that are dependent on Medicaid, they can't take it there, so they're gonna have to go somewhere else, even for their general practitioner, not let alone specialists. Specialists with geriatric care expertise, obviously we don't have any here. One of the things that I got on the phone with Dr. Dugarella. He was kind enough to call me back, and he talked about it. He said he would be willing also to work with you or whoever starts putting the plan together to brainstorm ideas of how we could get more. He actually told me that he thought that Poolsville could stand to have 5 full-time physicians.
Wow.
Because there's just that much of a need. They are constantly being asked to take on new clients, and they can't do it. He also mentioned the fact that we don't have any specialists. All our specialists are down county. So one of the things we want to think about is there any way that we could somehow get specialists out here? He kind of tossed out an idea that said, well, maybe if we had some kind of a location, a clinic, a location that we could do this at, might work with Adventist Healthcare to be able to actually have like a physician's assistant who has a specialty in geriatric medicine, or a physician's assistant who's a specialty in osteopathy, who could come out once every 2 weeks or once every week and be at that location. So those are the kinds of ideas that he was just kind of generating as we talked together. And he was very interested in helping out any way that we can on this. And then finally, Poolsville Seniors provides all these services, but right now we're scattered. We don't have any central office that we can work out of. We are, in fact, where are most of the materials?
My house, my
In
living
your
room.
living room, right,
Since July 2020.
yeah.
I look forward to the day when somebody says they have like 500 square feet that they could let me use somewhere
So
in
it's
town.
one of the things that we're thinking about is, and I know that this has been part of, I know the Fair Access Group has been working on this as well, so it's not that this hasn't been thought of. But as we look at what Poolsville town is capable of doing, has been able to do over the last 20 years, I think it's realistic that at some point we will have a center. And I know there's even been some of the property that the town owns has kind of been sort of set aside, gee, if we can get a center, it could go here, kind of a thing. I know that from when we were looking for a place to put pickleball courts. But there is a need for us to be able to serve our population, our clients as well, in being able to get a place that we could have meetings with people where we could do the Tai Chi yoga and those kinds of things. And also where we could have larger events, because right now we're very restricted. We've been begging churches, and they've been very kind to try to offer, the Presbyterian Church has offered a space in their Spear Hall to do things. But that's not ideal. What's ideal is if we could get some place where we could be there and have a place for our offices, for the people that put this whole program together and continue to do it all the time. So that's.
And I was gonna mention our gala, right? So that's 50% of our budget. And so we rely on ticket sales to this thing once a year, and we do it in February. It's usually a nice dinner dance. And we sell so many tickets now that we have to worry about whether we can accommodate everybody in whatever space is available to us. So right now, it's the Episcopal Church because they let us sell beer and wine. So, but I mean, we're outgrowing even the Episcopal Church, Hostler Hall.
So just, something to think about for where we're going over the next 10 years. We want to thank you for an opportunity to present to you, make ourselves familiar to you this evening, show you a couple of things that we've heard that seniors are needing over the course of the time. And we look forward to working with you in the production of the new master plan. That's it. Yes, you also had you should have gotten a paper that has all this information in it. It should have been an email. Yeah, there was a write-up for it. I have a couple of copies, though. I can pass them on.
I have one too, if you need an extra one.
Good, this is an interesting, I learned a lot tonight. A good presentation,
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Regarding the housing, hopefully, if everything goes as planned, the property next door is gonna be like, smaller homes that might lend themselves well to like starter families or seniors or, downsizing people.
That's
Is
good.
there a time frame for that?
Well, that's with the Willard property.
Yeah, I think Mr. Willard actually spoke to members of your group. I don't know if he spoke to the,
Oh,
The
he
board.
may have addressed us
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
were still using Poolsville
Yeah.
Baptist Church
Mhm.
as our main leased facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Do
want
you
to,
know, Commissioner Radigan, do you know what the time frame is for that?
I don't, you can call me Martin.
Okay.
Sounds so official. I don't know what the time frame is. It's been kind of quiet for a while, although I know that it's still brewing. I know that there's been some discussion with Tony about moving forward. So, hopefully in the not too distant future. Of course, you know how this goes. Like once the ball is rolling, it's going to take years before before they're built. But I think it's headed in the right direction. I think they have a nice view. I think everyone here was pretty on board with it for the most part.
That's
When
good
we got
to
the
hear.
initial plan, so
Yep.
That's hopeful. Thank
it
you.
is, yeah. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Brian, I just wanted to share a quick little
Yeah.
history for our newer residents. So, my parents, and I think Brian's parents, and I think Mr. McDonald and Mr. Hart's moved to Poolsville in the mid-'70s, right?
Yeah.
And all we had was Westerly and Westmont and all new residents. And as their kids went through school, well, the parents stayed. And so by the time I graduated, 93, we had the smallest class. We had like 70-some kids in our class. There was no regeneration of residents until we got Seneca Chase and Tama and stuff. And that really helped our school population and everything. Because we were in danger of being shipped to Quince Orchard and closing Poolsville because our numbers were so low. And so that gives some perspective of how, you're right, people moved here and they stayed and there wasn't any
Yeah.
movement.
Now we're aging in place. And
Yeah. So that's another thing we need to think about because
Right.
And I believe we're on to old business now, which would be Wallace Montgomery and the master plan discussion. Hopefully a grade on our homework.
I did not do mine.
I did mine.
All the people I expected.
I
to
know,
do
I
homework.
expected. You caught the date.
Welcome back.
But you didn't.
Is that a side effect from the booster shot?
In my defense, I'm currently working 2 jobs, 60 hours a week, and taking calculus and writing in
Oh,
college.
yeah.
I'm like drowning. But I still caught the date.
No, I need my glasses for this. Where did they go? Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I will complete it because I caught up today.
So is this a compilation of our answers?
Oh, yes, yes it is. The first,
But I
well,
want to apologize in advance. At 7:50, I do have to leave the meeting. So when I get up at 7:50, just continue on. I'll wave. See you later.
It's nothing we said, I hope. No.
No.
First, we'd like to thank you for having us back this evening to continue our discussion about the comprehensive plan. My name is Lauren Good with Wallace Montgomery. I am the project manager.
And I'm Ray Morwick with Wallace Montgomery, doing whatever Lauren tells me to do.
It's on the record now. So we handed out a few documents for you, and I can follow up with digital versions for your records. The first two go hand in hand. These are a compilation of the responses that we received to the homework assignments. The first, just the front and back, is more of a summary of that information and just sort of a quicker look at that. And then the second document that's stapled are the verbatim responses that we received, so that you can see both versions. But just to highlight some of this information, and again, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to respond to those questions. We do these exercises a lot with this type of a project, and it gives a good baseline of information to look at and to gain some more of your perspectives, see where they may differ. But just to sort of jump into some of these to highlight the information. The first question was about how the town has changed since the last plan was adopted in 2011. And there were a wide range of responses. Some of them were, more than one person noted a similar item, but that ranged everywhere from the presence of more agritourism type businesses in and around the town that were promoting additional tourism, to an increased income of some of the families that are moving into the area, which also translates to higher price point for housing, an expanded cultural diversity within the town, and that's also something that when we look a little bit more at data related to demographics and all of that type of thing, that will be something that comes out a little bit more readily. But there's also, the desire to still keep the town, keep it a small town, keep its charming characteristics, and the things that really make Poolsville. That went on to discussions of some of the newer new businesses or businesses that have closed since that time. So sort of building off that conversation previously was the closing of the grocery store that was here, the opening of the Dollar General that in part provides some of the same goods, but definitely not the same thing as a full range grocery store. And then in part going along with the some of the newer families that have come in, a desire for increased service expectations, things that align a little bit more with how the county provides services. Let's see. There have been some more larger scale youth tournaments. Of course, within the last 18 months or so, there's a little bit of a shift with people not necessarily commuting out of the community, but working from home with the COVID pandemic and all of that entails. Seeing more activity in the downtown during the daytime hours. There are more people walking to various destinations within town. There's an increased focus on sustainability and the environment and what that means. And then, of course, the water and sewer capacity or allocation issues. That's always, especially when we start looking at the comprehensive plans, that's something that always comes up as a major focus that we need to work with and identify. So those translate in part to responses received for the second question, which looked at top priorities or areas of concern that you all hoped will be addressed in the update. And these would be, of course, in addition to information that we're hearing from the various community organizations and partners. But here highlights included affordable housing, ways to bolster local businesses, making sure that the downtown remains economically viable, and in line with that, perhaps developing the town as more of a with more destination economic development, so focusing on what makes Poolesville a unique place, sort of leveraging that. So again, in part, how do we tie that back to agritourism, agribusinesses, and things of that nature. Medical facility access, that was another item that was discussed, as well as the proximity to the C&O Canal and how that can be leveraged and built upon. A recreation or a community center, looking at perhaps residential infill, or the openness to redevelopment within the town, and having an expanded discussion of the town's history and all that entails, as well as current transportation needs, and then again, going back to the discussion of the water and sewer capacity and allocation issues that might be present. There were, as is in most cases, there were more responses to the what do you like least about the current plan than the what do you like most. But some of the responses that we heard were that the current plan is a little challenging to find the information that you're looking for, and that's something that you would like it to be a little bit more user-friendly, easier to find that information, and perhaps have a little bit more comprehensive information on a variety of subjects within the plan itself. Again, looking at outreach comprehensively, so not just the typical organizations, but how can we reach out to some of the organizations or members of the community that are less likely to participate in a traditional setting. More of an emphasis on the goals or the objectives or strategies, so making those very apparent within the document. So it's very easy to understand what the various goals are for each of the topic areas, and then what the to-do list is that result from both the existing conditions and the goals to help the town reach the future vision. Some other items were expanding the discussion of the town's diversity and what that means. For the document itself, incorporating some additional graphics and photos to add to the user-friendly nature. Pictures worth 1,000 words, so if you can combine narrative and a visual element, that makes it better for anyone who's trying to read the information and absorb all of it successfully. And then ways to support sustainability in the future, as well as looking at infrastructure in a sustainable way. And perhaps an update to the architectural guidelines that are currently included as an appendix to the plan. And then when we move into the must-keeps of the current plan, in addition to the items that are required by the state in order to, or the required items from the state, there were some comments that we wanted to focus on economic development areas and expand on those, continue to emphasize the historic assets and what those mean to the community, what the relationship is between the comprehensive plan, the water resources element, and the water supply or the water sewer information. Continue highlighting the schools and the great school systems that are present, really keeping that small town charm, and then focusing on the town center, downtown area, streetscapes, and emphasizing walkability were all items that came up and were expressed as items that definitely wanted to see retained within the update. And then the next question was regarding what the current comprehensive plan doesn't address right now, but the next version should. So here, again, was more emphasis on affordable housing, an overview of some of the various community events that take place, looking into more of the diversity aspect, and the history of the community, what community resources are needed moving forward to serve the expected population within the next 10 or so years. There's a highlight on public health, which was something that was brought up when we were here last month, to see how we could incorporate that into the document. And then again, updated water and sewer status. And those were in addition to more of the formatting items that were discussed. Are there improvements to the format of the plan, added graphics, making it more user-friendly, et cetera? Are there any questions or comments about that group of responses? Okay. And then from there, we shifted into the SWOT analysis, so the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Here, some of these strengths were the agricultural, rural nature of the area, opportunities for bicycling and walkability, the capped growth potential, so not wanting to grow beyond a certain point to maintain that small town or rural atmosphere. Connections to history, whether that's to the Civil War or other items within the town's history. The fact that the town is within an easy commute to many areas, so talking about the location. Physical items such as the presence of electric charging stations or the farmers markets, historic buildings, pick your own farms, proximity to the canal, and some of the various urban attractions that are located nearby. It was noted that it's a safe community, which is always good. A great school system, and the presence of some of the wineries, which I'll second that one. So, you know, just different ways to take advantage of some of those various aspects. So looking at weaknesses, which for some of these are sort of the opposite to some of those. So while the town is in close proximity to the C&O Canal, it's still not right on it. So there is a distance, and how, you know, what does that mean? There is a lot of people do have to commute externally to get to their place of work, or to find activities for their kids. The lack of attractions within the community, as well as restaurants and services, those being limited here. There's also a discussion about the businesses and their ability to remain, so really looking at their longevity. A need for more town office staff to assist with various activities, and not taking advantage of some of the strengths and positive things that are going on both within the community and external to the community, so ways to leverage those various items. There's also some comments about the water and sewer system and not being resilient or needing improvements over the next few years, and an idea of the town being kept separate from Montgomery County and what the county is looking to do. So some of the opportunities, again, really focus on some of those similar areas, looking at some of the agritourism or agricultural destination businesses, attracting new businesses, playing on the history, developing a community center, the Fair Access Committee and what it's doing. It's another opportunity. Let's see. So a lot of those are similar. Some of the other items are similar to the ones that we've already heard. And then when we get to the threats, so here we saw some items about climate change and the future environment, the distances to various services, what it would mean if the agricultural reserve, if things changed with that. So definitely wanting to keep that as is or increase that. A threat would be if there was any change to the magnet program at the high school, how important that is to the community, water sewer capacity issues, and then the closing of the ferry and what that also means for commuting for residents in the community. So when we work on developing comprehensive plans, we usually like to take this in addition to comments that we hear from the public, either through surveys, events, the presentations that you just heard, and really combine these to look at what's most important to the town, where we should stress the most importance on updates within the plan and things of that nature. So this is a great sort of baseline for that, in addition to that other information, which will continue to be collected over the next several months. Is there any questions or comments on that component? Okay, great. The next document that you have is yes?
I didn't know we were done on the survey.
Oh, I was just jumping into that one, actually. So, yep, so that was an overview of these two, and
Basically, the summary of the feedback we got from you all from your homework is what we just went through, the items we heard there.
yep.
Now we're
Not
just
quite
getting
yet,
ready to
just
go
getting
through
ready
the
to go into
survey.
that.
It's the lead in for that,
Yes.
yes. Yep, yep.
So here, you've got a draft of a community survey. So this was one of the items that we were tasked with developing. So included in this are 15 questions for your consideration. And the survey itself that we would intend would have more of a focus on being an online survey. So we would use SurveyMonkey or a similar software program to actually develop that and make that available through the town's website for people to respond to. But we know that there are, of course, people in the community that don't have the internet, don't want to do a survey online, or it might be easier to distribute these in certain places within the community and get that hard copy feedback. So this is just a draft of the questions themselves, but then also the potential format, whatnot, for the look and feel of the hard copy survey. So the intent would be that these questions would be translated directly into whatever the online version of the survey would be. Some of these questions are, sorry, glasses are fogging up a little bit here. Some of these questions are updated versions of the questions from the 2011 comprehensive plan. So those are found in the appendix. But then also some questions to look a little bit at some various other items and what people might be thinking. So this starts with just a very, very general sort of pseudo-demographic type questions more or less, what is your relationship to Poolsville, whether people own or rent, own other non-residential property, a business, work here, or visit the community. And then just getting a little bit more information from those people who choose to respond, asking why people chose to live in Poolsville. What was that initial draw, and listing a variety of responses. And then asking if you could bring one business to town, what would it be? Or if you could keep one business out of the town, what would it be? So that's either general business types or particular businesses. Whenever we ask these types of questions in a community, there's always a few responses that we almost expect to see come in. An unnamed, well-known grocery store, let's just say, a couple of fast food type restaurants, things of that nature. And it's funny, no matter where we are, whether it's rural, urban, the size of the community, those responses are always come in, which makes me chuckle a little bit. And then moving on, just listing out some items that have the potential to affect the community, and asking how concerned people are about those various items, whether it's the water and wastewater, or preserving character, to making sure that there are balanced budgets moving forward, the affordability of maintenance items, climate change, public health, et cetera. And a lot of these questions that are more of the, check one or more responses, we try to include an other response, so that if we're not incorporating the responses that someone would have provided, they're able to write that in and add to that information. Looking at the different items that may influence quality of life and how important those are to the people filling out the survey. What's something that they might want to see changed to improve local quality of life? What are some of the strengths and assets of the community? And what are the most critical issues facing the town today and in the future? And then that moves on to asking what people would really like to see within the town, whether that is additional programming, creation of a community center, expanded facilities, things of that nature. And then again, a more pointed question about existing park facilities and what other facilities may be desired. And then in part because the community is such a strong residential area, what types of residential development are supported? What do people want to see versus don't want to see here? And then just a general, what else do you want us to know as we move forward with this planning effort? So we definitely, if you have questions or comments about this, we would welcome them. Once you all give the okay, we would work to get this updated to to the online version, make sure that's all set to go, make sure that the print version reflects those same changes, and then establish a kickoff or opening day for the survey where we could start advertising it. And then we recommend about 2 months to keep the survey open, particularly with all the holidays coming up, to make sure that there's adequate time for people to respond to the survey, and then a couple opportunities to remind people that it's out there and that we're looking for their input.
I have a couple questions. Will there be a place to put your name and address and all that good stuff?
There currently is not. We typically don't ask for that. We certainly can, but I guess there's pros and cons. One pro is, of course, where the response is coming from. The con for that is that people aren't necessarily as open with their responses if they know it's associated with particular responses.
So the reason I was going to ask is I wonder if we can incentivize the survey. I know we've been doing that a lot more at Montgomery College to get students to actually participate in the survey,
So, for example,
Is that something we could fit in our budget? Like, I don't know, gift certificates to local places or whatever if you fill out and return, or have a raffle, a drawing or something like that? Like,
Probably do a raffle. I
Ye-
don't think we can like give everyone that fills out like a.
no, not everyone, but no, that's what I mean. Like, submit, like, let's say you put a copy of this with the water bill, right? And then you say, fill out your survey, return it, and you're automatically enrolled to win, I don't know, $1 billion.
Hang out train tram.
Yeah, you get a free date.
we're not advocating $1 billion. Let's make that clear on the record.
But,
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's something we could like, look at. I mean,
It's optional for them. You know, the trash survey's out there right now.
Yeah.
And we thought this through, and, how we could, a drawing for whatever, but we couldn't get around the, please identify yourself.
Yeah.
Problem, but if they're just opting to identify themselves, I suppose, that's.
yeah, like, hey, put your name and address and
So
Get
I
it-
kind of see I kind of see the advantage of keeping it anonymous. But I also see, the one thing that jumps out at me is if it is anonymous, are you gonna have people that live outside of town, who, not that we don't want their opinion, but like they're not residents, are you gonna have them filling it out?
and couldn't it be stacked?
You already have that, because you could be a business owner, or you could just work in Poolsville.
That's true.
Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, I don't care about the in-town, out-of-town. What I care about is honest feedback and not the same person providing 10 responses.
So we can certainly include that, and again, make it optional. I've taken a lot of surveys, as I'm sure we all have, being in this more digital nature, where you get to the end and it says, if you're interested in being entered into the raffle or whatever it is, please provide your name and contact information, that type of a thing. We can do a similar, box on the back of the survey itself as well. And then with the, just to address the in-town versus out-of-town, when these results are input into the survey software, the results are compiled so that you get this percentage of respondents answered B to question whatever.
Right.
But we also have the ability to look at individual responses, so how the way that John Doe answered every single question.
Yeah.
So that's not something that we would advocate releasing the information in that way. I don't think is as telling, so looking at the responses as a whole.
Right, we're looking for the whole, yeah.
But we can certainly, look to see what differences are in the responses,
Yeah.
whether you're a resident, and whether you own or rent that residence, whether you're a business owner or an employee within the town somewhere, or whether you are just a visitor to the town. And those different perspectives are important because, just the same as like the two of you don't have the same, thoughts or feelings about everything. It's important to also incorporate that information, because those different populations are being served by the town, just not in the same way.
I mean, the other thing you can do is you can provide an optional area with the survey that says, if you like to provide your name and address or whatever, they have that option, they could provide it. Also, a lot of times we will put, or you could do it with the website separate to make sure they're getting signed up so that you're getting their email address or something for future notifications. And that's their option to include. So if they choose to include it, they're saying, I'm okay, knowing, we're not gonna use it to say this was so-and-so, so when we provide the results, we wouldn't say this was from,
Yeah.
whoever, the results would go generic, but it would be their option to include, so that is something we can add.
One other thing with the incentive, I think it would maybe spur some interest. I could see, hey, Facebook post saying, hey, fill out the survey. You get not just fill out the survey and people kind of ignore that, like,
Well, we just listened to the Poolsville Seniors presentation, so if we do it through their list of candidates, maybe they'll offer a free ticket to their dance or something.
Yeah,
if you,
yeah.
Fill out the survey, you know. Those are things you could reach out to them and say, if we post this on yours, will you, you know, is there something you can give to make sure your
Yep.
constituents are returning? But, you know, that would be on them to decide. But I'm just saying, those are things that get that circulation out there.
we could offer like free trash service to resident if you fill it out. We'll pick up your trash. Oh wait, town already gets. Never mind.
This is really kind of neat because it's like all this information in one place, kind of like it's just going to be good for like spurring or like, you know, it's all kind of organized in like a neat way and in one place, which I like.
Okay, can I add on question 13?
Yes.
Can we add a bullet for community center
Yes.
or indoor facility?
Uh,
Another one is a temporary bubble for the pool or seasonal bubble for the county pool. And then another one is more accessible parks for people with disabilities.
Great.
There was one.
Like I said, as you look at it, if you see anything or wording or anything that's there or something you feel, you know, maybe overrepresented or shouldn't be included everywhere, you know, we can look to make adjustments that. The interesting thing we always like to get from these, of course, which is the benefit to you all, is you saw your homework and you saw what responses we're sort of getting from that homework. Then to compare that to the responses we get from this is always really the value of it.
Can I ask some questions about wording on this?
Mhm.
Like number 4, I live in Poolsville because, is that a check all that apply type question, or should they be choosing one?
We wrote that as a check all that apply, but we can add that,
Yeah.
as a comment.
Okay, and then,
Or I'll ask the question for clarity on that too.
yeah,
Versus an all that apply, would you rather see it top 2 or 3 reasons or something like that? Because some people I know some people that do it, they'll sit there and they'll check every box, but if you're really trying to organize them, we could say top 2 or 3.
I get what he's saying, yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe limiting it to like your top 3 reasons, because then you end up with a weighted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't
Response.
want people to feel like they could only choose one. I know that
Yep.
I fit into more than one.
Like I check them all, right?
Right, yeah, I love the rural character, I love the schools, I love the green space, I love
Yeah.
the parks, that's why I live here.
Except available services.
We want to hit those top 2 or 3.
Yeah,
so
put
you see
unavailable services.
the unavailable.
Inconvenient stores.
And then number 7, and this is probably another stupid question, but
No.
the number 1 concern, that should be only pick one? I can see people like being like, that's my number 1 concern, that one's my number 1 concern, that,
You know,
Yep.
I just know what we all hear on the Facebook page sometimes in terms of like complaints. I
Lauren,
feel like there's
correct-
quite a few that are number 1 concerns.
And Lauren, correct me, I'll admit, I'm the more technology challenged of the 2 of us. But can we in the program for the online version, you can't pick more than 1 on some of those. We can look at that to see what we can do.
There's a way, the question types are, really, they're very similar to how they're laid out here. You can set it so that the responses that are given, if, say it's question 4, that, you have that full list and people could check off every single response, or they're limited to 1. I don't know that,
Yeah,
I don't know
we'll
that we
look to
can
see
limit
what
it
we
to
could do.
say,
3
pick
or something.
3, but I
Yeah.
just need to
I've
double
seen
check
others
that
where I
one.
know when you click and you hit that 3rd one and it takes 1 off of the other, and that's what I want to see. If we might have an option to be able to do that to help
Absolutely.
keep
And
that
then
clean.
there are also rankings, so you've got a list and you can use the numbers 1 through 10.
Only
or
one
you
time.
can rearrange what your priorities are. And for example, for number 7, that's something where it is basically a grid like this is, but then perhaps for that one, there would be a separate question that asks what, out of those items listed, what is your number one concern?
And then they can just pick one from a
Right.
drop down or something. Okay. In number 7, I don't know if anyone else feels this, but maybe affordable housing. Because I think that that's a thing that we've been hearing a lot from people who are renting and looking for something, or starter families, or, you know, again, our senior community.
Well, so that's what I was gonna piggyback on what you're saying.
Absolutely.
On number 7 and number the survey in general, I want to take a day or two to really soak it in, because I think this is a good tool for us when we advocate, like the Fair Access Committee advocating for a community center, advocating for senior centers or medical services and stuff like that from the county. We can use a survey and point to it, like, hey, 80% of our residents
Said they want
were
this.
concerned about access to adequate medical care, or
Right.
access to a community center or something like that. So I think we should think about that when we're looking at this survey, to see if we can incorporate some more questions that can
Yeah.
help us.
Because at first I wrote down medical access question mark, and then I looked again and it has public health. But I even think like putting in parentheses like medical access, like being like more specific
Yeah.
by what we mean by those things. So that way we can use them to really leverage fair access and stuff. So I agree
But
with
we're
you.
not-
I want to kind of look at that.
But we're not trying to, I mean, like, we're not trying to game this for fair access, right? Like, we're.
No.
It's gotta
What,
be-
but, so you have these questions here.
Not leading questions.
No, not leading questions, but you want to be thinking forward. Because I think a lot of our planning, I mean, our master plan this time is going to be about forward thinking, about, we kind of know our population's going to be so-and-so. We're not going to be changing much of that.
Right.
But I think our master plan is about envisioning how can we get more of these things and
Sure.
what to do with those things. And so that's what I want to think about when doing the survey. Not just make it a pat on your back. Oh, I love Poolsville because I was born here. Yay. You know, that doesn't help us any.
Right.
You know, Martin,
With-
you have a good point though, like with leading questions, like in number 7, we have too much growth or growth pressure, but there's not too little growth.
Right, like
I mean, that should kind of be on there almost as a counterweight to see, is, because some people may be concerned we don't have enough growth in town. So I think that that's, you know, it would be important for us to know that.
Yeah, good point.
So making sure that we're not leading anybody to a certain answer. And then I know that this again is kind of probably silly, and this is just a draft, but when we have like at the top, please return the completed questionnaire by, can it be an end of the month? Because I know for me, as like working and a parent, like things just get lost in the shuffle, and if it's due on the 14th, like that's just not gonna happen.
That's fine.
Yes,
It could be
definitely, it
whatever.
can be, it can be
Could be
whatever
the end of
date,
a
we
month.
just pick that as it was 2
Yeah.
months from,
Yeah,
you know, next
Absolutely.
week, but.
But I
you
just
know,
think like
certainly
if it could
update
be an
that.
end of a month date, I think there's just a better opportunity for us to like even be like, hey, you've got 2 weeks left, like it's due by this date again, and kind of really blast out again, all that. You have stuff too.
I have a lot of stuff.
I'm sure.
I'll shut up now.
No, actually, first off, I like a lot of the survey. I like the length. It is not too long. It is definitely something that you could sit down. It's manageable. It's not overwhelming. I love the way that it is set up. It's visually appealing. It's very quick. The format is great. So I do really like a lot of things that are happening here. I agree that it should be an end of the month due date. Yeah. Yeah, I will get to it, but not by the 14th. I do actually really love the idea of an incentive, and I don't understand. So how is the format? This is going to go out as both a physical survey and a digital survey? How is that going to work?
In this day and age, we feel like most people would probably fill something out online. It can go out through, a link can go out through social media, it can be put on the town's website, it can be sent in emails, can even do flyers with QR codes that you can just snap a picture of it and it takes you to the appropriate site online. That is the, let's say the ideal way to get the responses, because then also all the responses are automatically captured.
And that's where we'll get most of the responses these days, and we're seing that more and more, particularly the amount of technology and how people have adapted over the last 18 months, you've got seniors who didn't used to ever even be on an iPad that are fortunately now able to, because they almost got forced to. So we're seeing more and more responses that way. But we do got to account for those that don't have access, or those that choose not to have access.
So for those, we
Yeah.
would have either one location ultimately for those the hard copy surveys to come back to. And just in a little write-up, we just designated the town hall as that location. But then we would take those responses and key them into the digital, the online version, just to capture the responses, so that when we have the final report, it incorporates all of the responses. So you don't have a digital response and then the hard copy response is separate.
Follow up then to the digital response. Does your software or whatever site you're using, does that allow for access for disabilities? Does it read the questions and the responses to the individuals in case they have sight issues? Or does it provide like high resolution sort of, it's not resolution, but like I have a friend who is very hard of seeing, and so she has a special thing on her computer where she's able to flip the way, yeah, the high contrast, thank you. Like, will this survey be set up so that it is accessible to all?
So we typically use SurveyMonkey, which is one of the more well-known, more prominent
common than-
survey platforms. So I'm sure, I can't say for sure, I've not looked too much into that, but I would assume since it is so widely used that it does have those options
We can check into
available.
that.
I
for
just
the
want to make sure that,
The,
especially since this is coming from.
I know the answer.
Oh, you do?
So all these survey and software people have to do like a VPAT, like an accessibility
Right.
thing. And so if you go to SurveyMonkey, they have
Okay.
their accessibility. So any survey tool you pick, you should see that, and then you'll have your answer of
Okay.
what kind of accessibility options they provide. Rather, because
Yeah, we'll check that.
some can't be flashy, some
Right.
have to have alternating, but all those tools will have that in their FAQ or something.
Wonderful. I just want to make sure that whatever survey platform we're using, that because this is for everyone in town, that it should actually be accessible by everyone in town.
And this is as flashy as something that you would get for the survey. When we use those online versions, it ends up being a black and white, question and answer. There might be a header that looks somewhat, similar to this, but we don't incorporate, automation or, that type of thing for the survey
So-
itself, because it's unnecessary.
So part two of that is that if you can set it up, I don't understand why there wouldn't be any reason that you couldn't have it as a blind response. As in, you begin the survey by putting in your name and your address, but that goes into a completely separate file than your responses. Like quite often you have blind surveys that you have to log on to so that they know that it's you, but your responses are never associated. This could work also for the paper format, either perforated at the bottom where when you get it, you remove the name, but that also makes sure that like we don't have someone going in there and filling out the survey 10 times, 50 times using a bot, because you need to put, we'd be like, well, we now have this address 20
That email
times.
address has been used twice,
Right,
so
so
you
there
can't
is a
do the
way
survey.
to
Yeah.
get the information that he's asking for, run the incentive without making people feel like they can't be honest because it's linked. So,
Yeah, what we've checked before on some of those is they may not have their email address or something, but you usually get the IP address. And if you have repetitive IP addresses, you can discount because it's multiple at the same IP address. And that way there's no, name tied to it, somebody may, or change an email, but it's still coming from the same IP address, you know it's a duplicate, if you know what
Which,
I mean.
of course, there's ways around that too, if
Well,
you're
yes,
that
we're-
concerned about providing multiple
We are not
responses to the
cybersecurity
survey,
experts,
but,
unfortunately.
Right.
but yes, and we can look into.
And I don't think
different
that's a
ways
large
to-
concern here, but
Right.
I am saying that there should be a way to get all the information without associating one with the other.
I do like the idea of even just the perforation at the bottom, if somebody wants to fill out their name, that they could separate it from the physical sheet.
Right.
So that way, you know, even if it's a dashed line that they know they can cut there, whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
to
a good idea.
separate.
Okay, so then the rest of, this is just sort of housekeeping items under number 1. So I'm confused by the visits Poolsville box. However, I do think that there should be a, lives within the zip code but outside city limits. Because that is where we're also going to get, like, they have a vested interest in the town and what happens to the town, but they don't have a voting,
Yep.
a say in the voting. So I would like to see that added. I'm not sure that Visit Poolsville is even appropriate under
How
that
about
section.
asking for their zip code? What zip code are you in? And then list 5 of the surrounding ones from us. And then
Yeah.
say other if you're not within those.
Right, because
5
it could
zip
be,
codes.
you know, Barnesville, or it could be Dickerson.
But it would be interesting to
But
hear
it
how
would
many people
still-
I
from.
think there's a lot of people who live in 20837 that are not
Right.
in the town limits.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
large
Yeah, that's the-
population
That's the challenge with zip
that,
codes, 'cause it goes beyond.
that are not within our incorporated area,
But are
are still
in our
part of
zip
our
code.
zip code.
Yeah.
Like, not even thinking about Barnesville or, you know,
Right.
any of those towns, you know, separate
Yeah.
towns have their own kind of.
I mean, just people off Jerusalem, right? Like,
Yeah, that's not
Sugar-
Poolsville.
that's not Poolsville, but
Yeah.
it should be, but.
Absolutely.
It's a different issue.
But not
Right.
in town limits or
The
something.
other question I have is just how do you, so it says owns a business in Poolsville. How do you define that? Because we have a lot of people who, you know, people who run their own businesses out of their house, people who have like side businesses, people who have brick and mortar businesses. What does that mean? Like, you know, for years I've had a side business. Now it's incorporated, but it's also still not a brick and, what does that
So
mean?
can't you pick and choose? I live in Poolsville, check. I own my home, check.
But
I own a business, check.
But do I own a business in Poolsville?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
If you're out working out of your home,
I run a business in Poolsville, but I'm not sure.
yeah, but you
I
own
mean,
a
now I
business.
own a business in Poolsville because it's its mailing address. But
If you are
But
working from
I-
your home, your business is in Poolsville, right?
does that matter in the, like, because here's my thought, is that you get this back and you look at it and you're like, well, why are we trying to attract businesses? We have 400 businesses in Poolsville.
It's a good point.
Would
That's a
you
very good point.
would you sooner want to see this as a commercial business versus
I think I would like to see maybe a distinction between a home business, a home-based
versus
business,
a-
versus a, you know, open to the public, come in our front door business.
So if similar to how we did the live in Poolsville with the 2 options underneath, we could do a similar.
Right.
With those responses.
Right.
As well.
Because there are quite a few businesses in Poolsville that don't actually, beyond the income of the individual, they don't bring anything else to Poolsville. It's not like Cugini's that's, you know, providing a service like that.
That's a really good point. Because I think you have a lot of people who are doing some, you know, home sales type
Right.
things.
yeah,
that-
there's a lot of work from home now. I mean, we've
Is,
seen
is,
such a change
is
in
selling
the industry
LuLaRoe a
and-
business in Poolsville? I mean,
But
it
you're not-
is.
It is, but it's not benefiting necessarily.
But you're not getting revenue from that
Right,
because it's a home business,
right. So I think there should maybe be a distinction.
right?
That's a good.
Just for clarification, like,
Okay.
if I was taking this, I wouldn't know how I should check that. Okay, so that was all I had under there. I like the limits. I too saw the growth and growth pressure, and I was like, well, what about change stagnation? Like, what about the opposite side of that? I think this is really a balancing act. Like, we want to give people enough options that they can tell us how they feel without leading the survey. And that's
I think the other ones, I didn't see anything else there that I felt like was
I
generally
also-
missing.
Maybe these are dumb questions, but what does it mean affording town maintenance?
Having enough money, I think, that's how I read it.
Make sure we can keep the lights on.
Hoarding was not my favorite word.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what they were asking about affording town maintenance, like, you know.
I don't like
But they
public
also talk
infrastructure.
about balanced budgets to above, so how is that a redundancy, or is there a difference there?
I would think everyone's going to be concerned about a balanced budget.
Right,
Like, do you need that question? Like,
what is the difference between affording town maintenance and a balanced budget?
John, should we close that window?
Oh, yeah, it is chilly.
Yeah.
I wonder why it's getting cold.
Would it be more sense to say something more like adequate town services or something like that instead of?
That is a
affording
better,
town
yes, that is a better phrasing. Also, like, property maintenance. Are we talking public property maintenance? Are we talking personal property maintenance? Are we talking about general curb appeal? I'm not sure
Yeah.
actually what that question means either.
So that one was intended to be private, so residential properties or,
Okay, I think
Oh,
that
like
needs to be.
concerned about my neighbor's
Right,
2-foot grass.
right.
Well, and we have
Well,
a
to
lot
me,
of
it's
parks-
residents and business. When you say property maintenance, it could be businesses too. I mean, if, you know, but it's more on how they're kept and are you seeing, you know,
But
it's,
maybe defining that as non-public property
okay.
maintenance, like,
Yeah, just say private property or
Yeah, maybe just private property maintenance, because I feel like
Yeah.
even making it really, like the wording accessible.
right.
But also, we do have a lot of parks in town, and so like, and that is something that our town is really proud of, is our park space. So like, even asking something about like, maybe it's park maintenance, or, although I don't know.
I think, yeah.
Well,
A
see,
lot
that's
that
why-
we'll get from communities will just be maybe it's something about, what do I want to say? Litter is the term, for lack of a
Yeah.
better thing. It is, you know, you'll see a lot of, you know, trash or litter in public spaces or something, you know, as a concern. So maybe there's something we could add in there from that. Because I think that's the bigger issue more than park maintenance. If you're,
Right.
you know, it's
General,
usually, you know, people are, you know, throwing the McDonald's bag in the park after they cross the street here. You know, it's that sort of thing you don't want to, you know, is that a concern to the community that we're seeing a need for that?
so, moving on to question number 8 then, along the same lines of reading for clarity, we have open spaces, presence of tree vegetation, and parks and recreation facilities. And those 3 are listed as, you know, factors for quality of life, and I'm not sure that one, there's a big distinction between access to nature, because I would put all of those under access to nature. I'm not sure if it's redundant, I'm not sure if it's clear, but when I read that, I see very, you know, distinct basic shopping needs, housing diversity, local schools. These are all really individual things, and then I see open land, presence of trees, vegetation, parks and recreation facilities. Those all fall under the same thing to me.
and clean appearance.
And clean up here, I don't know.
Is that,
what
are you talking about
clean
me or are you talking about the parks?
up- But that could,
Appearance is different than like access to open.
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
Like having our downtown area clean and
Right.
like accessible, like you can go into some communities and there's litter everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Right.
clean appearance to me is separate, but I do agree with you that those other 3 do feel very similar.
and I think that probably under 8, medical access should be added.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question when you talk about the trees and vegetation versus park and rec facility, just for us to understand. We hear it from a lot of communities. It's not necessarily that you have parks or recreational facilities. It would be, are there street trees? Are there trees in neighborhoods? Are there, you know, you're a green community versus just a park and recreation being?
I could
That-
see that
that's
in
why
other
I-
communities, but Poolsville has tied in their reserves and their green spaces and their parks. I mean, you can go from my house to the park, which is a mile away, and spend 75% of it in green space surrounded by trees. Like, it's so tied together in our area that I'm not sure. I can see what you're saying.
I can see that with keeping that question there though, or, like addressing something like that, because, who knows what we're gonna do going forward. I mean, people might, there might be some, after we're gone, like, from this committee, like, there might be like some movement to like, I don't know, like,
Clear the trees,
not clear the
log them.
I think it's important to know how people value it,
So maybe we should say like presence of, I don't know how that could be reworded to make it more clear.
Yeah, I'm not,
Because how you explained it was way more clear than how I read it as well.
right, I think it needs to
Let's
be
think
rewritten
about-
for clarity.
Like I said, I've had that in other communities where it's, you may have adequate parks and rec facilities and you've got those and there may even be connectivity, but there's not a lot of tree canopy or other things in other parts of the town and stuff like that. And that's
That makes sense.
sort of that's the way I was looking at it. And
Yeah.
so
I mean,
just
it
to
makes
try and
way more
clarify.
sense, though.
Right. And then, I actually, I had some of the same things as Kevin for adding to number 13. I think those are great ideas for adding. I fully support that. And then, maybe a definition of what do you mean by mixed residential community? I mean, I know what I would consider a mixed residential community, but what is, like, that's pretty open-ended.
You mean like,
So under 14, so everything else is really specific. Single-family homes on large lots, single-family homes on modest lots, multifamily homes and townhouses, retirement
mixed where
community.
it has-
Everything else is really specific, and that one just jumps out at me because it's so incredibly vague and so open to interpretation.
so I think of Kentlands. It's a mix of apartments, townhomes, single family,
Shopping,
and shopping.
It's a
all
PUD.
within one,
Right.
yeah.
it's a PUD. Planned unit development.
Yeah. But on a smaller,
Like, we have no idea what you're saying.
But that's not on here. But when I read mixed residential communities, I think PUD. And I'm not sure that that's what other people might be thinking.
It's just a mix of housing types.
just say mixed housing type residential.
Or maybe mixed density.
Or maybe mixed single
I guess my question on that, do you need to have that as a
apartment
separate category?
or something,
If
community.
it's
So
listed
that
in
way
the
it's
others,
even
you'd see it.
Are you trying to say that people might construe it as like a diversity thing?
Maybe, or a density issue, or,
Just they don't,
I don't think it's well defined. I don't know that,
you're right.
So if we change that to maybe mixed housing type slash density, something like that to try to differentiate it from more of a mixed use, so the residential and commercial mix. And so that, we do have a, housing over commercial spaces for that one, but that's not necessarily getting back to that.
yeah, I just think
More
that
general.
if we want people to respond and us to understand their responses, then we can't make the assumptions that they're coming to the same conclusions about these questions that that
No,
we
I
are.
understand.
I even feel like saying mixed density might be hard for some people.
Oh.
Because we've had so much discussion of different projects that have come up on density. And saying mixed density could mean having huge homes on different size lots, to people. So like I know we're all speaking the same language,
Yeah,
but I
it's-
don't know that everyone here in Poolsville will be speaking that same language.
I mean, looking at it, it'll give you an idea, if we take that out, it gives you the idea of the different types.
Right,
And then by knowing the different types, then there's different ways those types can be applied. And that's really where that mixed residential comes into play, is that's one of the ways it can be applied.
I
think
wonder,
that could, to minimize confusion, we probably could just take.
could you make this a weighted one? Like, what are the 3 types of properties that you would strongly support, and what are the 3 types of properties you would strongly oppose?
Yeah, but what if you don't have 3 that you strongly oppose or you strongly support, right? Like,
Right,
I mean, on here is no additional housing development. So that might be your only strongly support,
Right.
right? So like, then, and you may strongly oppose the entire rest of that.
It's true.
I mean, so I feel like that's limiting people.
That's too limiting.
I feel like even keeping that mixed residential community could be effective, but just putting in parentheses afterwards, single family and townhomes, end parenthesis. And
Yeah.
that would be all that we would need, I feel like, so that way we could get, you know.
Right. All right, I'm done.
Hey, for number 13, would it be possible to add a climbing park as an option? There's been some discussion about that.
That would be fun. I do have another question about 13 though. We do have some of these facilities already, quite a few of them. Like some of these are new facilities and some of these exist in our town. Is that because, like, we have a dog park, we have baseball and softball fields, we have basketball courts and soccer fields.
But
We
some people
have
say there's not
pickleball
enough
courts
Right.
and tennis ones. Okay.
baseball or soccer.
Yeah, that would be the thing. Do you have
Okay,
enough
so
or
it's
not
just
enough? I mean,
additional.
that's-
Yeah.
We could probably remove dog park, because we're not gonna build a second dog park, right?
Why? There might be an interest for more dog parks.
So could some of them have like additional so that people don't think that we're like thinking about removing?
So why is there not a question, can we remove that dog park because I would.
Well, that's what I was gonna, I'm
Or
just,
the pickleball court.
And shuffleboard, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the climbing facility could easily replace shuffleboard.
You know, volleyball isn't on here. There's no sand pit.
You all wouldn't know that.
It used to be.
that's,
At
because all the
Cable Park.
cats know.
That's such a mess, right?
But I wonder, should like, for those ones that exist, should it say like additional dog park, additional baseball, softball
Well, we
field?
tried to say, considering the existing facility.
Yeah.
Oh, what additional
facility?
are
Never mind,
needed?
it's in the question.
So,
We could also phrase it what new or additional facilities, just to, you know.
I also, you would have no way to know this, we sort of visited the ice skating thing a while back, and it was kind of a big issue, and it didn't really work out. So I think that's one you could probably remove.
okay.
I would, you don't think so? No. But we had the county kind of give us money for ice skating, we decided not to do it.
I remember,
You should still have it in. There's no reason not to have it.
because remember, they can add. We do have the other category for them to add items, so if it comes up, so.
But even if it's not economically feasible, we should keep it on there?
Well, everything's not economically feasible.
What else on here is not economically feasible?
A new soccer field might not be economically feasible.
Sure it is.
Gold Coast, more mowing, more.
Yeah, but that's all something we could discuss, like, we discussed thoroughly the ice skating rink, and it was like,
Yeah, but I wouldn't nix it.
okay.
I wouldn't nix it. We don't know what the economics are going to look like in 5 years.
That's true.
It might be economically feasible in 5
What
years.
what do you guys think about like more walking paths, like as a park thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
I do agree.
I was gonna say, I do feel like in some way this question 13, like who's gonna be like, no, I don't want that. Like, you know, like, oh, additional baseball, softball fields, sure.
Well-
Basketball courts, sure.
I would recommend from your comment earlier on the other one, we say what are the top 2 or 3 that you
Yeah,
would.
can we do that? Because literally I can see almost everyone in town be like, yeah, I'd love an ice skating rink in town. I would love a climbing park. I'd love a bubble for
We'll
the
say your
pool.
top 3. What are your
Yeah.
top 3 additional needs, additional facilities, and that's great.
Tony, you have anything, like, if this is a,
Just a couple, I mean, while you're on question 13, I mean, we have, you get into the habit of saying we, there are a lot of nice ball fields, but we actually don't have a marquee field, which would be artificial turf.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, a rentable asset. And, but, you know, they cost another dollar. So, but it, you know, it is something that doesn't exist there. You know, it's something that, whether somebody wants, I don't know that someone would think of like that.
So listed sort of like a multi-sport turf field.
Yeah, it's multi-sport, you can do lacrosse, even football.
Well,
Yeah, you
so
get
like-
lacrosse field, hockey, football, soccer,
Say
they all are
soccer.
able
So,
to be,
like lacrosse field, hockey, and soccer
Yeah.
all play on the same field. They just have different widths,
For 2 questions.
so you just mark them
I'm not sure
differently.
about the utility of question 6. I mean, I'm not sure that. But just think it through, I mean,
Yeah, I thought of that too.
and then if you link that to question 14, I mean, if you get lots and lots of, we don't want any affordable housing, we don't want any apartments, we don't want any starter housing, it just starts to sound really red-lining. And I'm not sure that that's a message that Poolsville wants to communicate. I don't have any solution for you, but I can tell you that's come up in the past. So, you know, I don't know if the group wants to think that through. But my real question is, you know, the seniors will come, seniors always come. You know, they're gonna fill this out. And seniors are gonna want, you know, what seniors want is stuff for us. I mean, they're not shy about it, and that's fine. But the plan to reach historically underserved communities, plus different slices of the community, including youth, is tough. And, you know, is there a plan to try and get this in the hands of the people that are gonna be running the place 20 years from now? So if you're putting in the water bill, which is fine, you're putting it in the hands of 2,000 homeowners. And that's great, but there's a lot of other voices that, you know, don't get a water bill. And I would love to see, I mean, I don't, there's some age here where people can kind of self-identify at home there, but it would be nice to, if there was a way to get it into, even into the school, or multiple members of the same household.
Sure.
Who are in different slices of the community, but also,
I
when you're
never even
talking
thought of
about
that,
people
though,
in
but, like,
historically underserved
your
communities,
kid
which is generally
should
diverse
fill it
communities,
out.
It's hard,
I
you
know,
know, to
but
say
like,
that, but
you
I
know,
think
but I
it's
have like a
important
10-year-old.
to make this, you know, really inclusive document. You
Yeah,
can't have
I mean,
a solution for it, but I think it's important to acknowledge.
Agreed, and in part, that's something where we want to work with various community groups, community advocates. I mean, if you saw on the presentation from the Poolsville seniors, they had over 300 people who followed their Facebook page, and they were able to reach out to 10,000 or so members during October. So, and that's just one example where, you know, we can ask those groups to forward on the information, or local religious organizations. We can do the same. You know, ask them to either provide copies to their congregations, or if they do newsletters, include a link. Again, we can certainly work with the schools to disseminate the survey, as well as you know, provide links, and stress on that part that we're interested not only in hearing what the parents have to say, but also the students as well. It's funny, I did an in-person event a few years back where it was very family-focused, and the number of elementary and middle schoolers who are coming up, and they would say, you know, some things that were very basic, like, we want a place to go get ice cream. Well, that translates into what adults are looking for. We want, you know, that, you know, bakery, or you know, that type of sort of niche commercial aspect that's not here, but it's a simplified response. So yeah, there's definitely ways that we can do that, and, you know, try to get the information out as much as possible. We can look to any homeowners organizations, or if there are you know, things like that. So there are a variety of ways that we can try to get this out, and hope that people that are active with those communities will support the survey, and know that, you know, we are trying to get the information from as many people as possible.
That was one thing I was thinking. I think in town it won't be terribly hard. Like, we could even ask people for to volunteer to, like, walk it around to certain areas of their neighborhood or something. I'm sure we have enough people who are,
You mean like to the doors?
yeah, to doors, and, like, just ask if people would like the survey, would like to fill it out, or if they've gone and filled it out, asking if they're, you know, teenage, or maybe there's like a limit, because, you know, Lexi was just saying, you know, you're right, like, our kids should be filling it out too. I have a 5-year-old. You don't want her opinion. She wants ponies and unicorns. But like,
A zoo.
yeah, a zoo. Lexi has some kids who are slightly older.
Word on every
Right.
Post-it, more playgrounds.
Kevin and
more
I both
playgrounds.
have high school students,
Yeah.
and so their opinions, like, they will be, you know, in their early, well, mine will be in their early
Is there
20s.
an answer called whatever?
Mid-20s. They'll be in their mid-20s, you know, when we rewrite this plan, so they have an interest.
Yeah.
But I do,
Well,
I
that
do.
would be, I guess that would be one of our questions from, you know, your knowledge of the school and everything. If there's something through the Student Government
Oh, yeah.
Association or an economics teacher that just has an interest in something that could be assisting, those are the people we can reach out to on what's the best way to get it out in the school or something like that.
Yeah, we could definitely get it out in school, and like at church, like in our church, we just put a thing in our bulletin.
I feel like the
Solution here, we could just get Jerry Tukowski to walk it all over the whole town.
I was gonna say, I feel like in town isn't necessarily, but it's our communities that are part of our 20837 who are not necessarily in the town of Poolsville that I think are harder to get our outreach to. So I
Can
think
you
we
put
need
a
to be,
stack of these like at Dickerson Market?
we need to be very
Right.
purposeful about how that's gonna happen.
I have a question. Is the tree lighting happening this year?
Yes.
So could we have like
I thought about
a
it.
booth? Yeah, like a booth and have people like fill it out and drop. I mean, you could do just
Absolutely.
an incentive right there.
The thing
You know
is
the
that,
rule though, when you come up with an idea, you gotta man the idea and man the booth.
Too cold.
Explain to me how, like, we're gonna make sure that they're not, like, filling it, like, the same person's not doing it at the Christmas tree lighting, their water bill, online.
That's what we have.
That's why you have the perforated bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
but the thing about that that's tricky is tree lighting is usually the first weekend in December, correct? We are halfway through November right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
even if we get this, like, everybody looks this over and we all agree on wording in the next, like, 2 days, the chances that we're gonna have it totally out and ready, I don't know.
And
Is that
nobody
even
wants to do that.
feasible?
That's
right?
not the time for that survey.
No, but I do think that there
They
could
take
be.
it home at least, or something.
Or we've done, in other places, little postcards, so you get, you know, four postcards out of a sheet that's like this. On the one side is information, you know, what is a comprehensive plan? Why are we doing this now? Just a little bit of background information. On the other side is you know, we need your input. You know, this survey will be available, or is available, a link or, that you know, QR code that you can snap with your cell phone, but it'll take you to the survey. That way, you don't necessarily have to have a stack of the full survey, but people can, you know, take that little postcard home, and then when they've got time, they can go back and fill it out. I mean, as far as actually getting this survey ready, for us, it wouldn't take that much time once the questions, language and formatting, et cetera, is agreed upon to translate that. I mean, updating the hard copy version is pretty simple, and getting it into the online format is just mostly a matter of our colleague that handles that, just making sure she has time in her schedule to get all of that information uploaded.
I do feel like the tree lighting would be the easiest time. But I feel like if we had like devices ready with the survey up, that people could just come and fill it out and then walk away. And come and fill it out and walk away. Or we could have postcards, but I just don't, I agree that that's a tricky time. You're wrangling children,
Yeah, we at Poolsville Day we have sign up sheets and stuff for fair access, and here's what it looks like: some parents walking by. Oh, fair, oh yeah, I'm interested, and the kid's like, "Come on, mom, let's go." And they're like fighting them, and like they don't want nothing to do with.
But I will say that everything I get at Poolsville Day, for like all these things that I'm interested in, at the end of the night, they are crumpled in the bottom of the bag.
Yeah.
Because we are running from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
So I feel like even handing out a flyer then is not necessarily the best time.
Yeah, I wouldn't do anything at
Let-
lighting.
Let me ask a question, because you're gonna be doing the plan update. You know, word's getting out that there's gonna be this plan update. What efforts are going on for building the mailing list or information for people to get information just on the overall plan update, let alone the survey? maybe at that event, it's a way to at least get them on a sign-in sheet that you're getting their email address or something that you want more information on it. And if you just collect the name, we can then be emailing out to them the survey after the event when it's ready to go.
That's the way to do it.
What?
Like, have a booth that says like, you know, like, we need your input, just give us your email, and that's all you gotta do,
We do have the email address for Civic Alert.
right?
On our Fair Access Muster, we have 1,200 email addresses.
I don't
That's
know
awesome.
who runs Protect Our Poolsville, but they have a pretty decent mailing
Yeah.
list. If
There's
they
a
were
bunch of mailing-
listening, they
seniors have a
might
mailing
send
list.
out a, hey,
Pop has a mailing list.
But I wonder, like, well, I guess
Your
you could-
input is needed.
Each of those groups could send out an email.
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
We couldn't take those emails.
no, but
No, no, no.
they could
And
do
the
an
churches
outreach.
could send to their
Right.
parishioners, and PTAs can send to their groups.
And we do an e-blast to them saying, we're doing this survey as part of the
Yeah, please
plan
include this in your
update.
newsletter.
Can you
Right.
please circulate this to your constituents? And
Booster club for the high school, and
I mean, that tree would take off really fast.
yeah,
is that, I mean, that,
But I
using the existing networks the best you can is the best way to get it out
I
there.
do think you have an interesting point, though, of like, people should be aware of where we are in the plan, and if every time we need to send something about the plan, we have to send it to all these groups instead of having one list that we just have, like, it might be beneficial during this process currently to ensure that we're asking people to sign up for the Alert
plan.
Poolsville thing, and then blasting it
Do-
that way.
do we have a web page for our, like, you know how like Thrive Montgomery has a web page, or most people have a web page, you know, where they're at in the project.
Well, I mean, part of Alls Montgomery's contract is the creation of a 2021 master plan website.
Yeah, so maybe
I was expecting all this information to flow out, but I wasn't actually expecting, hand delivery, we'll give you service. I thought there was gonna be this central point.
yeah, and on that web page would have where we're at in the process, why we're doing this process,
Well,
who's
see, that would be cool if we could.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
we gotta get
Have
people
that
there.
webpage and then have people sign up for alerts via that. Is that kind of where
Yeah,
we're
so
at?
what you're saying, what if we had like a booth, a table, whatever, at the Christmas tree lighting, and it could be other places too, like at locals, whatever, and we're just asking people for email addresses, not just specifically for this, but just for like, civic alerts, like
Yeah.
including this.
Because there's a lot of people, every time on Facebook, when something happens, the water main breaks or something, they're like, did anybody know the water's, out on this place, or the electricity's out, and there's always an alert that goes out, because I'm on them all.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, a lot of people are not.
Well, those people are not going to be. There's going to be some that are always not in tune or sign up for things, and
There's certainly gonna be some, but I think there's a lot of people that just don't, that have never been asked, and if they were asked, they would like to get,
And I will say that
There's new people in town too.
our website, the town website, is not easy to find the alert thing. Because
No,
even
it's
when
not.
Lexi joined,
I still can't get it to work.
I walked her through, it took us about 30 minutes on the phone for me to try to find where that
was-
part was again.
yeah.
And I couldn't find it. I mean, I signed up for it at some point, but I can't find it to help Lexi.
Well, I think that's at some point in our future, probably the website's gonna have to be addressed, but anyway.
I think that should be a priority. Actually, before I would think that's a priority before you even issue the survey, is to have the web presence there, outlining where we're at.
But this is gonna be at their website, right?
Well, no, you'd put a link.
Right.
Yeah, the question on it, we had, within our thing, we had our services, we had some supplemental services for additional things. I guess the question that we need to be talking with Tony on is the level we're doing there. You have your website today, there's things that could be put on that page that make it easy, or if you're looking at a separate standalone with a lot more information on it, that's a little beyond some of the things in our initial scope. We had those as supplemental items for some of that
Yeah.
within the scope, so that would be the question of the degree. That's all that we
But
don't talk about.
we can't wait till we do a major refresh on our website. That could be
No, not
months.
not the town website,
Yeah, okay.
but a simple page can be just one page without links. That says it could be called Master Plan Poolsville Master Plan 2020 or whatever. I don't know. And then it could just say,
It's the wrong year.
well, I know, whatever year it is. And you know, you have, okay, every 10 years the town's required to update
Yes.
their vision. Here we are in the process. We've hired Wallace Montgomery. We've interviewed these stakeholder groups. Now we're at the survey stage and show a little visual timeline of what it's like. And then,
If you'd like to get more information, sign up for the mailing list here.
yeah,
And
take the survey here, blah, blah, blah.
Link to the survey.
And then when you
wouldn't
send
do
out your
much more
survey,
than that basic.
when you send out your survey, you don't just send a link to the Survey Monkey, you send a link to that webpage.
Oh,
then
but
so-
see, that makes me annoyed though. As a,
Oh.
I'm gonna be honest, when I
Uh-huh.
have like my 2 minutes to do something, if I have to go to a website and find the next link I need to click.
No, it'll be front and center,
Okay.
the survey.
I'm just saying, I don't know, that's a lot. When
Well,
you're-
there's
when you're
statistics that
pressed.
people disengage with like websites after like 2 seconds or something. I mean, like they can't find what they want, they just move on.
Okay, there could be a giant red banner that says click survey here, but then on the net, the information.
So we,
I'm gonna click a survey, I wanna
we-
take the survey.
generally, when we're developing a project contact list, we'll have one subset that is the people that have proactively requested to get our updates. So those are, the people that are putting their email addresses on the survey or filling out the sign-up sheet or whatnot. Then we have another subset that is the community organization contacts or key partners or something like that. And those are the organizations that we are hoping, or, we've had the conversation where, we're going to be sending out this information. When you get it, can you forward it to your constituents? So it's a mix, and, some people might get an email directly from us with our update. Some may get an email from whomever, so there might be some duplication as far as that goes, but, that's just a way that we, sort of separate it out, and, we just keep building that database as much as possible. And when we do that, when we've done, updates, it's broken, typically we would break it down, like here's our update number 1 for this project. Here's this, a quick status blurb. Here's where we are in the process. Here's the project website, whatever that may be. So a link to the homepage. Our survey is now live. Here's a link directly to the survey, or, things like that. So we do, try to not really bullet point, but section out maybe 3 to 4 points that we're trying to make, just to let people know what's going on, to try to keep them a little bit more engaged, but again, to highlight those, the specific things that people are looking for. And as Ray was saying, I think right now we've got included, developing the information, so the different blurbs about the status and what a comp plan is and things like that, that can be incorporated into the town's existing website, on, a subset of a page. Or, we, that additional discussion about how in-depth a standalone project website would be, that we would, want to be linked, have links from the town's webpage, so that, you can try to get to it as easily as possible.
I guess I would suggest to everyone here, if you have time, just look up Thrive Montgomery 2050, and then I would think do a scaled down version of that. I mean, like the first page, has their update, and it has
Right,
where they're at and all that stuff.
right.
So maybe just take a quick glance at that.
And like I said, I guess the question there comes, is that something we could be developing the information and have it for a page on your website, and you already have the IP address on a hosting site. If we end up doing it on another site, that's
Yeah.
setting up, purchasing that other site and other things that go along with it. So trying to save That, that's all we're trying, that, usually you can link the two, so they almost look like they're the same.
Yeah.
But if it's something that can be a page added to yours, it's sometimes easier because you've already got the hosted site versus adding another hosted site to it.
Yep.
Do you do your website updates in-house, or is there a consultant that handles that?
So I know our fair access page, our marketing firm does it for us.
Done in-house. Yeah. The website is at the moment, but it's done in-house.
But some people do it. Like Van Eperen does the fair access page.
Yeah.
They have access to that. So what's going to happen next?
Well, I think the big thing right now is your comments so that we finalize the survey, and then agreeing with you on the time frame for when we want to release it, so that we get it out there, and then from that, these steps to get everything in place so that it can be released on that time frame.
So is that done via email, or do we have to? That can all be accomplished via email, I would think, right?
Yes.
I was gonna say, do we need to have the commissioners comment on the survey? This is really our process, right? So we're driving it, so it's all us, so we don't need that to go to them next.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So should we create a goal for, I mean, I don't know how soon you can get the kind of tweaks that we talked about for wording back to us, but is there a way that we can try to get this finalized before, our next meeting?
Well, I would like
Or
to
the
see
next-
first discussion about a possible website or what we do with that, whether a separate page, and I guess that would be a conversation between you guys and Tony with regards to the contract. And at the same time, finalize the survey. And then we can decide, like, should we try to have it issued? Do we want it done before the year, the survey? Do you want to issue it, like, in December?
I feel like December is a wash for a lot of people.
Or just say, let's issue it January 4th and give people,
Launch
That's the
beginning of the
issue,
year.
trying to get email addresses, like, like
I
the
feel-
possibility, but
yeah.
but the survey doesn't, I think whoever said it's a wash is right, like, December is like a lost month for a lot of people,
Yeah.
so, maybe like.
January.
Early 2022.
so let's say before our January meeting, we have nailed down what we're doing with the web and the survey finalized.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
That's,
So then we need to have that nailed down during our December meeting, correct? We have a December meeting?
we have a December
Okay.
meeting, yep. So, and plus, a lot of that can be done,
Via email, but that should definitely be 100% resolved at or before
Yeah,
the
so
December
when-
meeting.
when January comes, we should be able to hit go live with publicizing the survey and all that.
And that's the goal, and if for some reason it gets delayed, it's not the end of the world, let's try to shoot for that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So having it open January through the end of February would be the goal? Is that the 2 months? January 4th through the end of February, or January 4th through the end of March?
How long do you guys generally keep surveys open?
Surveys of this length, we typically do 2 months, 2 months, 60
So the
days,
end of-
which, however you
I
want
think
to
if you
phrase
go
it.
into February, it would be plenty of time for what you're trying to get out of it. And we talked about, after that, I think one of the other elements we had there was to have the visioning session. And that would be after, basically, we would start preparing that literally 30 days after the survey's
Yeah,
out. So we're
yeah.
getting an idea of what the survey's saying. And then we're formatting sort of what we'd want to be doing in that visioning session. And that's something that could be an in-person virtual, that we can do with that and work with you for in the spring to do that, to get that additional feedback. So you see what you're getting from this, what responses you're getting, and then are there specific things from that you want to target or highlight in a sort of visioning workshop to get additional feedback? And that's sort of a good way to get you that foundation of information is the plans being pulled together.
Okay.
One more thing, if one of our goals prior to this even rolling out would be getting people signed up for some kind of email blast. Would that be, at this point, getting them signed up for the town of Poolsville email blast? Or are we gonna hope that there's some kind of website that is specific for this to get signed up for an email blast?
So my thought is, I don't know how much, if the juice is worth the squeeze on that, because there's so many groups in town that already have everyone's email. And I think when we want to publicize this, hit all of our groups up to spread the word. Because I don't know, I'm not going to stand out in the tent and handwrite signatures, then go back and type them in, or, you know, I think that all that's work been done by all these committees all over the town. PTAs, booster clubs, Pools Athletic Club, churches.
I do feel like there are people who might be coming to the tree lighting ceremony that maybe are not, like we talked about, people who live in Poolsville, who may not be on some of those things already. But maybe if we just have a QR code or something somewhere, and, you know, people can scan it, everybody has their phone on them, and they can just type their email in.
So if we put a QR code, where does that QR code take them?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
That's, see, I think we need to have.
You said you have a town.
Yeah. I don't.
But there's so many
light on your
lights. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the question is, if you have a town system or alert that you're sending out notifications of the town.
What's that?
We have alert Poolsville?
We do.
Well, it's not called Alert Pools. I don't know what it's called.
It's called Civic Alert or something.
Yeah.
I get a text when there's a water main break.
Water main breaks and stuff like that, they post it.
And
I guess that's my question to me. If you have that and you want to be promoting to get people to add to that, that's the list we could be using for sending it out from the town.
I think
And
it's
then we
very
can
telling
also
how
send it
well
to
it
the
works that the
organizational
town
groups on top
manager
of
who's
that.
been here for
Yeah.
a month didn't know it existed. Like,
Yeah.
but
And that Lexi, one of our board members, still can't figure out how
Still
to get
can't
on
get
it.
on it.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it works really well. Is the key here.
let's say I having been doing PTAs for a number of years and now on Fair Access a number of years, I think I've seen everyone in town's email address, and I'm pretty sure we have enough coverage.
So you
get-
feel like you don't want to go that way.
I would put the effort in towards getting the website up, finalizing the survey.
Well, social media will be really good for that too.
Yeah.
I think that I have to agree with the existing networks and our access to get that into the hands of those people that have all of those master lists.
Yeah.
Plus the social media, plus putting it into the water bill. I think I just can't imagine us doing much more, you know, putting it into the schools. I mean,
Yeah.
Are the water bills, are they quarterly or monthly?
Quarterly.
Quarterly, and
When's the
they're
next
only
one?
for town residents again.
right.
Yeah, but I think we have enough.
When does the next one, if we were to meet a mailing for the water bill, when would we
Third
need
of
it?
them go out each month.
But the-
A third of the bills for each quarter go out each month. So a
So-
section goes out every month.
So,
So that's gonna be tough.
just as a side note,
Third of
you
the 3
have
months.
all the addresses.
Okay.
If you wanted to just do a mass mailing, the town
We
has
could do
done
them.
those before, they just use
Yeah.
the water bill addresses.
And like Poolsville Day Committee, we do a mass mailing of the postcard to all
Correct.
the surrounding zip codes.
And you could do the
Oh,
postcard
yeah.
thing and send the
Yeah.
RQ.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, maybe that's a better way to do it than with the water bill.
But with that, we have to put some legwork in. You have to actually need a team to separate the bundles to go to the different post offices. It just takes like a half an hour with 5 people.
So Kevin will do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have experience.
Yeah.
The trash survey's jumping. I mean, we've got like 200.
It was well done. I feel bad.
Yeah, I do too.
And we didn't go to all, like, it's really just Facebook and the moving sign and the website.
Yeah.
And it's, you have to click like through the website 4 different places to even find it. So, you know,
Yep.
there's good participation.
Now, so you had said a third of the water bills go out every month to complete the quarters mailing. So if we,
isn't gonna work.
if we did want to use that, then we probably suggest.
I don't know if I would do
opening
the,
that up
the
to-
water bill.
I think what you're saying is the mass mailing to that list would be better than.
Yeah,
doing
I wouldn't
through-
do the water bill. I would do a mass postcard,
Yeah.
once we have our website up and the survey established, to the 5 zip codes. And then,
QR code would be good too.
yeah, on that zip, yeah,
Yeah, that'd be part of the postcard.
yeah.
All right.
Do I hear any motions?
Could I ask one more question?
Oh, no.
Just, this is a quick question, I'm sorry. So, this is just something that had come up, in another, community, was the desire to move away from using the term master plan because of some potential negative connotations. So we wanted to just confirm with this group, whether you're comfortable keeping the name of the document the same, so that would be the comprehensive master plan, or just having that be just the comprehensive plan.
How about comprehensive?
I'm fine with comp plan, yeah.
Yeah, I think if it offends anyone and it's not necessary, then it's not necessary.
Yeah, just take it out.
Yeah.
You're seeing very few references anymore the other way, so.
Good.
Great, thank you.
Good point. Well, thank you for all that. This is good information.
Yeah, thank you for getting all this together. Very helpful.
Thank you. It's helpful for us to, if you see, we'll go ahead and start making the revisions to get this turned around to you from what we heard tonight. If there's anything you see before the end of the week on what, since today, what's today, Wednesday? Losing track of the days of the week these days. But if you get us something, if there's any comments from you all, or if Brian has anything, since he wasn't here on comments, if you guys could email, Lauren, those, any additional, if you had a chance to go back and read, we'll look to incorporate that so we can get it back to you revised early next week.
Okay.
And keep it moving.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
I liked your questions too.
Still alive, guys.